Hi, I'm Dave Merlino.
I'm Dustin Sweet, and this is the Know Their Story podcast. We talk to veterans about their time in service, returning home from war, and transitioning out of the military. Hopefully, along the way, we'll inspire you to do the same with a veteran in your life.
Because sometimes all it takes to make the world a better place is sitting down with a friend to know their story. We are on for the 16th episode of the Know Their Story podcast. Just absolutely thrilled that we're going this far. We're starting to pick up a lot of followers as we go, so thank you
I can't
so
believe
much
we're
for your support.
16 in.
I know.
This is, yeah. That's already 15 more than I thought we'd do.
I was just going to say, you didn't believe when we were 3 in, so.
I will maintain my incredulity throughout.
And how is New Mexico for you today, Mr. Sweet?
New Mexico's windy. We're in our third season. We have winter, summer, and wind, and we're in the midst of wind.
And that lasts like 2 weeks, and then you're into winter?
Well, it already snowed once, but today I got to play with my kids with a kite for a while, and that was pretty, I don't know when the last time you guys ran a kite was, but it's pretty fun. I still like flying. Yeah.
I think I was your kid's age last time I ran a kite.
They're $1 at the convenience store, and they're a good time for about 45 minutes. Go get it.
Nothing is $1 in Seattle. I don't even think the tax on it would be more than $1. Anyway, we have a great episode today. Joining us today, also, we've left New Mexico and we're in my home state of Washington. Joining us from the Air Force, he was a canine handler with the U.S. Air Force, deployed to Iraq twice and also Saudi Arabia twice. And we were just talking about, before we came on, the Spartan conditions of the Air Force in Saudi Arabia. But thank you for joining us today, Tech Sergeant Tony Davis. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas.
So, Dustin, we always give the first question to.
We always let me lead. Tony,
yeah, we got to get you in the groove early.
Hey, I guess I'll lead with our usual, which is how did you end up being a part of the U.S. military?
Man, I never had any intention of it. It never even crossed my mind to do it. And I was going to school and working, and then I was not doing well in school. And then I was working at a factory molding plastic car parts for Honda. And I was working noon to midnight, 2 days on, 3 days off. So I couldn't even keep up a school schedule. And I was at the house one day at my mom and dad's, and the recruiter called for my little brother. And I answered the phone, and I ended up talking to him. And I thought, well, what the hell? I'll go meet up with him and see what he's got for me. And that was it. It was just, if I had never answered that phone, I probably never would have done it.
Wow.
Just it's something to do today. I'll go join the military. Had you already made
That's kind of what it was, man. I was just kind of, what's that?
I'd say, had you already kind of made up your mind, or was the recruiter just that persuasive?
I was just kind of floating, not doing anything really. I mean, I was just a little over 21 when I joined. So I was back at mom and dad's house. So wasn't really doing anything. I thought, well, I'll do this. I mean, I gave the other recruiters a shot, except the Navy, because I'm afraid of the ocean. So I talked to the other 3 while I was there. And then there was no way with the Marines. No way. And then the Army, they kind of talked to me a little bit, and I thought, well, maybe. And then I went back to the Air Force guy's office. They said, oh, this is the best deal for me. And so that's how it happened.
And then they're like, hey, if you go with us, we'll give you a dog. Did you?
Well, they showed me a video, and I saw the dogs in there, and I thought, hey, can I do that? And he said, well, yeah, you can, but you have to do 3 years and be good while you're in, and then apply for it and get accepted. And I said, okay, well, I'll just make sure I excel and try to do everything I can to get into that. And that's how it happened.
Cool.
that's a step up on my recruiting video when I joined Custom. I mean, it was Customs then, Customs and Border Protection now. They show you this recruiting video, and it's got guys on horseback, and they're out on the speedboats and everything. It's like, man, I grew up going to horse camp. I'm like, I'm going to do horseback riding. It's awesome. So you join up, everything's great. And then after, you know, you're all signed up and at the academy, they're like, oh, well, the horseback is a specialized unit with the Native American trackers, and you have to be a member of that tribe to do the horseback stuff. I'm like, what? Why is it in the recruiting video? So, but live and learn.
It's awesome.
Just to trick you.
Yeah.
So, but so you did your 3 years, and as we mentioned in the opening, you did become a canine handler. You know, for us, we talked the other day, I used to be the supervisor of our canine, and obviously with Customs, it's narcotics facing. What is the general role of the military, for those who don't know, a military working dog? What's your focus with them?
So it's basically the same as civilian police departments. You're a base cop and you're with your dog all the time. The difference was we deployed. But yeah, it was basically the same thing. You had either a bomb dog or a drug dog. They all did the aggression work. So looking for people in fields or buildings and biting somebody. So it's really absolutely what it is. Exactly the same.
Do you have is there any time where, you know, like on Cops, where people decide they want to fight the canine handler and it's like, dude, I've got a dog? Like any stories where you just really wondered what they were thinking when they went up against a dog?
There was one guy, I was at there was only one base at the time that had dogs. So we went to the other bases to work in Colorado Springs too, because it's all pretty close together. And my dog jumped up on the semi to search it, and the guy had just waxed the big silver things on the side of the semi. Had just waxed those things or got them polished or whatever they do with it. And this guy was so pissed off and kept coming at me, yelling about, you got to pay for this truck. And at the time, the dog I had was right around 100 pounds. He was a monster. I mean, luckily the guy didn't know he was a big baby. The dog probably just would have let the guy pet him. He's not the greatest of working dogs. But yeah, I thought, what an idiot. I would never approach that big of a dog and try to act like a hard ass. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to fight that dog. You're not going to win.
No. Was it a shepherd? Or
Yeah, that was my only on-base one, stateside. Yeah, big giant shepherd.
No,
Wow.
I would not fight 100-pound shepherd.
No,
I
mean,
would
you had the
be
drunk
wearing one of those red man
like
suits.
coming through the gates trying to pet them. And what's that?
So I'd fight a 100-pound German Shepherd, but we got to put me in one of those red suits for one of those practice suits.
Oh yeah, you don't even feel it really then.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, then it's just, you know, playing with a really aggressive kid with teeth. It's fine.
Well, you don't feel the bite, but you feel
it's like
the firmness.
Tug of war with your arm.
I like it when they start running in that.
Yeah, you feel the hit coming at you for sure.
Oh man.
So you're working with your dog, and then you do get deployed. And what's the workup for that once you get your orders and you know that you're going? Did you go to Saudi Arabia first or Iraq? I mean, you have an extra responsibility with the dog with you.
Saudi Arabia was my first. Oh yeah, huge responsibility. The dog is the sole responsibility. So I went to Saudi Arabia first, but that was without a dog. I hadn't gone to canine school yet. My first one with a dog was to Iraq towards the beginning of 2004. At the time, there weren't any. You go to regional training centers to build up for your deployment, but nobody knew what they were doing with these dogs after the war kicked off. Nobody knew what we were getting into really, and so the training reflected that. And so we were doing bare basic stuff that we do at home station. It wasn't anything crazy. It was hot and sandy because it was outside of Vegas, but it wasn't anything nuts. And then we got pulled 4 or 5 days early because our deployment got bumped up. There were 3 of us leaving, but we were going to different places. And we left and went back home. So we didn't even finish the initial training. We just left, went home for a couple of days, and got another plane.
Wow.
And then you have to go back, go to the vet again, get the dog looked at again. You got to do all the normal paperwork out processing stuff. But then not even just the training, people didn't know how to travel with all these dogs at one time. So I got to Dover, Delaware, and there were, if I remember, this was a long time ago, but if I remember, there were either 11 or 13 of us all there trying to get out of the States. It took 3 or 4 days to get us all out of there because the dogs require special travel. And then we got to Germany finally, and we were there for, man, probably 10 days, 12 days, something like that. And every day trying to go get on a flight. You check out of the hotel, you go to the flight line, you wait around for 10, 12 hours, not go anywhere, go check into another hotel. And it just happened, like I said, for almost 2 weeks. And then we finally got to Kuwait, and they still didn't know how to get us all over there. So a couple of people stayed in Kuwait, and the rest of us were all going to Iraq. It took, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 days out of Kuwait. It was almost a full month just of travel, trying to get to Iraq in the first place.
Do you think that was a kind of a psychological trip on the part of the of the Air Force? So by the time you finally got there, you're like, oh, thank God I'm here.
Yeah, you're almost relieved that you're in Iraq, because it was just travel with a dog it's the only part of the job I didn't like was the travel. Even stateside travel, if you can't check the dog underneath, the dog's got to sit in between your legs on the plane, and you're not able to go to the bathroom. You can't fall asleep. You can't do any of this stuff. And so after all that travel, you get to Iraq, and you're like, oh my God, give me this hot tent and a cot. Like, I don't even care. I just want to sleep and not have to get up real early. Just, let me relax a little bit because I'm where I'm supposed to be now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough traveling with dog. I mean, airplane travel is pretty dangerous for dogs. My absolute worst day in customs, by far worst day, is I had to go up, and you always check the dogs that come in, and it was a military flight. And so there's like 17 dogs. And I was warned that one of them maybe was sleeping. I was like, oh no. And it was a bulldog with their short snout, and it's really hard for them to breathe. And passed away. I remember going up there, and I just like, come on, wake up. So I had to call my supervisor up, and I was like, hey, everyone cover your radios if you're next to a family. And then the family came up, and I just kind of had to stand there. Oh, it was the worst experience. And then the airline started kind of being dicks about it, trying to say,
oh, that's horrible.
And my boss grabbed him and was like, have a little respect, and you're going to have respect, or you're going to have problems clearing your flights. And that is the fun part of CBP. Like, if you don't want problems, like,
oh yeah,
I was, yeah, a lot of love for my supervisor that day. He read them the riot act. So
I think it's so weird that the Air Force didn't
horrible
just
thing.
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's weird that the Air Force didn't just have if they knew they were moving that many dogs all at once, like just have a flight.
I think that part of it was such a culture shock to send that many dogs at one time. Because before, when people deployed, it was 90 days or whatever it was at the time, and it was 1 dog here, 2 dogs there. It wasn't anything mass quantity. And I don't know if it's still the same. I assume it is, but the regulations at the time, the dog took up his own pallet on the plane, and so the only thing that could be on that was the handler's gear and the dog, and that was it. So if you have 60 Army guys, whatever that is, I don't know, platoon, I don't know, but you're going to get bumped because you're by yourself. It's just you and the dog. So if they have to get these 60 people over there, you're getting bumped every time, because they can pack a ton of stuff on pallets in those planes, but yet 11 or 13 dogs, whatever it was, and you're looking at a lot of space they're taking up on that plane. So I think that was the biggest issue.
Yeah. But it's not like it was, I mean, they had working dogs in Vietnam. Like they had 40 years to prepare. So.
Yeah, but I think it was a little different because if I remember, I don't think those dogs came back, did they? With their handlers?
No,
Did they stay there and pick up new handlers when they got there? I don't
yeah,
remember.
that was going to be my question because one of our guys for our documentary, Apache Blues Welcome Home, when he rotated back out, the dog stayed and got a new handler. And it was so tough interviewing him because I could kind of sense, when you just get a sense of something, I didn't want to ask it, but for the story I had to. And I was like, so what happened to Duke? And they missed the new handler missed a booby trap and they were killed. And, but yeah, and they weren't classified as soldiers. They were just property. So they were left. But did your dog then stay with you and come back from your deployment with you?
Yeah. You train with the same dog. Preferably you're with that dog for a long time before you deploy anyway, so that you have that bond. You work well together. And then you go over there and you work, and then you do come home with the same dog. None of the dogs stay over there anymore. It's if you were to do that, you would spend so much time just trying to mesh with each other that most of your deployment would be over before you were actually operational.
Right.
True.
Yeah. So all the training's done at home station, and then you deploy with that dog.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really, people think, oh, I have dogs and you just get a dog. But I mean, we had one dog in customs. It was a good dog, like nothing against the dog, but it was male and it was alpha and it wouldn't work with a female handler. Not saying it just sat down as like a, no dough, no show, but it just was not as effective. So they paired it up with a male handler and it was a great dog. So dogs they're smart. They know, it is a bond.
Yeah. Yep. They got their
Tony,
personalities like people.
How many dogs have you worked with over the years?
I had 8 operational. I had 2 during canine school. You get 1 in the first part of school and 1 in the second part. Mm-hmm. And then when you go to kennel master school, you get another dog too, just for training. But operational, I had 8.
Okay, so you have your dogs that you train with, but then do they match you with one of the dogs that you trained with? Just kind of see what's better, or how do you get your final match then after school?
Yeah, when you get back to home station, generally at the time, you went back to wherever you went to school from. So you already knew most of the people in the kennels. You'd already been around because you used to have to do a lot to get to school. You had to go to the kennels and catch the dogs and spray out kennels and clean kennels. You had to do all the bitch work that nobody wanted to do, because it used to be a really tough process to get into it. And so everybody kind of knew your personality. The people that were already in the kennels already knew the dog's personality. So the goal was to try to mix those two together. Sometimes it didn't happen. My first dog, we were together 10 months. I think 10 months. We were not a good team. I mean, we functioned, but we weren't good. And he ended up going back to the trainers to work on some issues he had. And I picked up another dog that was easier to work. And then my skills from there. But yeah, so they try to match you up as well as they can when you first get back.
Yeah. I mean, it's the law of supply and demand. A whole bunch of people want to work canine compared to saying, mortar crew. So yeah, like I tell my daughters, no one gets hired as you're going to be cleaning out the kennels before you're working with them. So
yeah, it wasn't fun. Like there's only so much dog shit you can mess around with,
So yeah, Dustin, go ahead.
Am I allowed to swear?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, yeah.
Discretion, sir.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. I mean, if it gets so far along, we can just click that it's a we have a button that we click when we upload that can say it's a more mature episode, which we're fine with. Yeah. We don't want to police anyone language. With, like I said,
okay, cool.
Goes with what it goes. So
gotcha.
So
So, where did you end up? You said you trained in Colorado Springs a little bit. Did you end up there, or did you end up in Vegas when you were stateside?
No, I got stationed in Colorado Springs right after basic and tech school, and then went to K-9 school from there and came right back. Vegas was just at the time it was, I want to say it was just a couple of weeks training course, and then I went back to Colorado Springs and left from home station.
were you allowed to enjoy Vegas, or did they keep you separated?
No. Well, they didn't really monitor the dog handlers. We stayed in these trailers, and everybody else was in these dorms where they were monitored. And we had to go every 4 hours and check on the dogs, and then you had to feed the dogs at whatever time in the morning. There was a little casino just outside the gate right there. And we did go to that once, but it was such a little small hole in the wall because you are way out in the middle of nowhere. You're so far from the strip. It's not, I don't even think it's even considered Las Vegas anymore. I think can't remember the name of the place. Indian Springs, maybe, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, we went to that one casino that one night, and the rest of the time it's not even worth it. We'll just stay here.
I have a general rule in life that the smaller the casino is, the sadder it is. I've been to.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. If you see a casino that's in a double wide trailer, just don't. No, just don't.
Do it.
Yeah, there's my father's houseboat is on a reservation in Eastern Washington, and they have a very small casino, and it's definitely like, well, the Social Security checks just came in, and it's just sad, just pulling the arms, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take the Bellagio where it's too expensive for me to gamble, and that keeps me honest.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna spend that much in there.
I did accidentally bet like $125 on a hand of blackjack on their machines because I'm used to playing the smaller ones where you press max and it's like $20. I'm like, oh, big spender, and I noticed I bet like 100 to like 125 or $200 on my hand. I was like, oh crap, and I got a blackjack, and then it was just on. I ended up winning I was up over $1,000 because I was there for a union convention. Called my wife. I'm like, I want $1,000. I'm going to go see the Cirque du Soleil show. And she's like, but I want to go. I'm like, no problem. Blackjack's printing money. Yeah, I lost it all. Just went cold. So
that's awesome.
You should have let me go to O. No. So.
Well, you just blame it on the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I had to call her. I was smart. I hadn't brought my credit cards. So I couldn't get a cab. I had to do the walk of shame back to my hotel. So just lost all my cash. So I would say I learned my lesson, but I didn't. So it's part of my charm.
You never do.
So, but your assignment in Saudi Arabia, you mentioned, like I said, the very Spartan Air Force conditions. What was that like again?
So when I went, it was actually my first and my last deployment to the exact same place in Saudi. And both times it was the same. You're in these villas with 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and washer and dryer, living room, kitchen. But when I went as a kennel master in 2011, I had my own villa because it was the alternate kennels. And so nobody could live with me in case the dogs had to come over. And so I was in basically the mansion of Saudi Arabia.
And thus concludes our recruiting advertisement for the Air Force.
Oh, yeah. If you want a good deployment to Saudi, join the Air Force.
So where were you in Iraq then? Bumping forward for Iraq.
The first time I was at a Talil Air Base. The name's changed. I don't know what it's called now. It's just outside of Nasiriyah. That was where I was at first. And there was a lot of Army there. I remember that. And the Italians and the Romanians were there. So it was a pretty different experience for me. I'd never worked with the other branches, let alone other countries. And the Army, we saw them basically during convoys because we searched gates. And they would come in. And then we did do some stuff like heading towards Nasiriyah. Across that bridge, it's in that that show Generation Kill. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bridge
yeah.
you're trying to cross into Nasiriyah. Yeah. So we did some stuff across that bridge, but that was with the Italians and the Romanians. We didn't do anything with the army. So that was it was definitely an entirely different experience than what I was used to. It wasn't, you know, your home station searching cars and flirting with girls at the gate. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you know, it wasn't anything like that. It was, oh my God, I'm out here digging a hole for this LPOP, however many meters outside the gate. And now I'm up here on this bridge. And so I didn't really know what was going to happen on that one because it was a pretty quiet place at the time. We got hit, I think, one big time, and I think maybe just a few small times, nothing crazy. The big one was pretty good, but it was so far out that it didn't affect Tent City. Now that Air Force deployment was horrible. Living in tent bathrooms. We still didn't have the Cadillacs. We had the tent bathrooms. We had the canvas bag with the spigots on it to the kind of shave, but I came home with, you know, full goatee. Everybody just kind of stopped shaving while we were there. The other Air Force cops had a little rougher than I did because they got, you know, looked at a lot more than we did. But we took advantage of being the only dog handlers there. And as long as you showed up with your guns and your dog, like nobody really cared.
Yeah.
So that was also my first experience with the benefits of being a dog handler back then.
Yeah. And, you know, when you talk about the gate, I know one of our veterans, his daughter was stationed in the Middle East and had made friends with some of the kids outside the gate, and the gate got hit after she had left. And unfortunately, those children did not survive it. But it is, you know, what is it like for people who haven't been there? I mean, gate security is a pretty hairy environment at points. What is that mindset like as you're working the gates and just not knowing what's coming?
In the beginning, it's pretty overwhelming, especially back in 2004 when everything was still fairly new. You never knew what was coming through there because it wasn't just the convoys; it was deliveries for the chow hall or the little mini store that was there, or even some of the locals that worked on base. And so it was a little overwhelming because you really didn't know what you were getting into. Because yeah, your dog's gonna find that bomb because you trust your dog, but what if it goes off before you even get to it? You know?
Right.
So, but after I don't know how much time it takes, but after a little bit of time, you kind of get really complacent, which is bad, but it's just the nature of the beast. Like you're searching hundreds of cars a day, you're gonna get pretty complacent. And so it was weird to stop worrying about it. When I first started doing it, I was, you know, worried. Like my son is 4 now. At the time, like, what if I don't make it home and he grows up without a dad? And you think all this stuff, and then you know, a couple months in or whatever, you stop thinking about that. That was the part that worried me more than anything else, was that I stopped thinking about it. And so you got to really get in that mindset. I have to take every day like very serious instead of half-assing it just because I've seen this guy, you know, 45 times in the last 20 days. But you never know, like they could be building up that rapport. It breaks down your trust in humanity a lot. You don't, you know, you see this guy cooking your omelet at the chow hall or whatever, or packing up your to-go plate, but he might be the guy that blows you up. You know, you kind of lose your trust in people for sure. That was my biggest takeaway of working the gates. The gates are a very easy target because they're right there. they're the first thing you see. It's absolutely the easiest target. I mean, you look at the times that a gate got hit compared to, I don't know, like a insider attack somewhere inside the installation. I don't know for sure, but I'd have to guess the gate hits are a lot more. It's easy.
Yeah,
It's
and
like being an active shooter in a gun-free zone.
yeah,
In theory, nobody has a gun there, so you do whatever you want.
yeah.
But
I mean,
definitely the softest target, I think, on the base.
well, and not only is it easy and it's there, but people are actually allowed to approach it. It's not like, if you're driving a car at high speed across the desert at a random section of the fence, you're probably going to get taken out before you get 100 yards of it, but you're actually allowed to drive up to the
Right.
gate. And, you don't even have to make contact. Like that was our thing with customs is someone may try to bring something in, but you don't have to wait to customs to detonate it. Like you could detonate it right in Puget Sound in Seattle and actually have a bigger psychological effect. Hypothetically, in case anyone's listening, like don't do that, please.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, yeah, you're allowed to drive up, and you never know. When you're talking about losing that faith in humanity, did that stay with you when you came home? Like, does that still kind of inform your interactions with people, or did it take some time to kind of decompress?
Yeah, it definitely stuck with me for a long time. I don't think it ever truly went away. And then definitely after my next deployment in 2008, it's still with me now. But yeah, that deployment in 04, I mean, I grew up small town, Southern Ohio. Everybody knew everybody. I think I'm related to like a quarter of the town. So you didn't worry about like your own safety or not trusting somebody. And then so that definitely changed me as a person for sure. I was not the same person when I came home. And in hindsight, in 2004, I wasn't doing anything near as dangerous as what I thought it was at the time. It wasn't like I was, war hero in 2004. Just at the time, it was something very new, still dangerous. But I'd never done anything like that, so it was a lot to take in. But like I said, hindsight, it really wasn't that bad. But yeah, I definitely lost that trust in humanity for a long time. And if it ever went away, it didn't completely go away. But I did get better for a while. I was kind of back to normal. I was hanging out with my friends still, still able to go to baseball stadiums or packed concert halls or whatever else. So 2004 wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. I was away from my son. The ex-wife and I split up right before I left. It wasn't a surprise. We knew it was happening. But I came home and everything was different. My personality was different. The way I looked at the outside world was different. My home life was different. So it was a lot to come home to that. But like I said, that one, I got over that for the most part.
And then you went back in 2008. Going back, you talked about kind of getting complacent as you went. What was it like to go back and kind of ramp back up into that? Like, what is your thought process? You've come home, you've kind of gotten back to being home, sent back. What was that, a lot of our guys in the movie talk about, you can't just keep flipping switches. What was that like for you?
2008, I went into it thinking, been there, done that. It'll just be a little bit of a different mission, but whatever, I'll be okay. I'll just go to work every day and come home and be fine. And for that one, I went down to Yuma, Arizona for training. They started a K9 school, the Marines did, and it was just all dog handlers, no no base cops, no services for the chow hall, none of that stuff. It was just canine out in the middle of nowhere, Yuma, Arizona.
Wow.
And you truly believed when you were there that you were in Iraq somewhere because it was set up very well. The best training I've ever had, but extremely physically and mentally and emotionally draining for that training. The gunny came in the classroom the first day and told us, "You're off on the weekend. I suggest you go get some beers. You're going to want it." And then I thought, what the hell am I getting into now? You know, when they come in and tell you, go get a couple of beers, like, oh, this can't be good. But like I said, the best training, I was 100% prepared after that. But even going back to Colorado Springs before I actually deployed for, I think I was home like a week, maybe week and a half. I was still going into the deployment with the same mindset, you know, been there, done that. And then I got to, I went to Balad Air Base. I think it was called Anaconda at the time, or maybe it was Anaconda after. One of the two, I can't remember. And I got there, and the canine liaison picked me up, and he said, "Hey, we don't know what we're going to do with you yet. We don't know where you're going." And I thought, "But I'm here. Like, is this where I'm staying?" And he said, "No, we don't know where you're going to go." So he put me in a temporary kennel, or a temporary housing area for the kennels. And no kidding, man, the first night I wake up and I hear a loud boom, shook the room, and then I hear debris hitting the roof, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a hell of a trip if this is the first night. So I got the dog, I calmed him down because he was, you know, it messed with him a little bit too. So calmed him down, and we stepped outside, looked around, people were taken care of because it hit pretty close, but there were people over there. I didn't know the base, I didn't know the people. So I just stayed where I was at in the room instead of getting in the way. And then my buddy was there from my same home station. He was getting ready to leave. And so he came over and he said, "Hey, you good?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm all right. But what the hell?" He said, "Oh, dude, this is all the time." Oh my God, this all the time. So the next day I got up and I went up to this place called Spiker to in process with the Army because I was deployed with the Army that time. And I got up there and they said, "Well, we don't know what we're going to do, so you're here for a couple of days." And so I just kind of hung out and didn't do anything. And I thought, oh, well, maybe this is picking up a little bit. Just kind of hanging out, playing PlayStation, you know, not really doing anything. And then they said, "Well, you can go back to where you originally flew in and relieve your friend since you guys are from the same home station." So, okay. So I get back and I move into an actual chew in the kennel area. And then the next morning went up and got my my ACUs, my Army uniform. And I thought, well, this is a little strange, picking up an Army uniform, but if this is what they want me to wear, all right. Like, I still didn't really understand what I was doing. And so I got to the kennels and I met the kennel master. He said, "Explain to me everything that we do. We run these missions. We do this, we do that." So, okay. So then we start running missions. And that's when I realized that it wasn't been there, done that anymore. We were going out to these villages. We were kicking in doors. We were chasing people. There were fights. It was like to the far extreme of what I expected. I expected something that I'd already done, and it was just up here. I was absolutely not in that mindset when I first got there. But after the first night, you go out and you realize what's happening. You have no choice but to get into that mindset. You have to, or you're not going to make it. Something bad is going to happen, whether it's breaking your leg and going home because you did something stupid because you just weren't prepared. So you got to really prepare for that. Luckily, I was all right the first night or the first mission because like I said, I wasn't prepared for what was happening. But that's the trip that really got to me. I didn't expect all the stuff that was going to happen on that trip because I didn't know what these villages were like. I hadn't really talked to any of the other Army guys that I was going out with to see what they dealt with. The other handlers would say, "Yeah, this happened once, but it it sounded like it was really few and far between. I didn't realize how often it was going to happen on these trips. But yeah, that was the one that, I mean, I was well prepared, thanks to the Marines in that school, for what we were going to do. I just didn't expect that we were going to be doing it. So I had to really get my head in the game after the first trip.
So how often
Now
were
that
you?
might be a long-winded
Oh no,
answer to the question,
cool.
but
no, we're totally hanging on that. I mean, how often were you going out doing that? Like once a week, every day?
We rotated. There was a standard mission once a week, and we just took turns doing that one. It was a meeting with the sheiks, or however you say it, sheiks, whatever, and the other locals, and then the military. And we had to escort on that mission too. So we would go search where they were doing the meeting every week. So we rotated that one, but we had just a rotation. If it was your turn to go, it was your turn to go. And if there were 10 missions that week, you might go out 5 times in that week. But if somebody went to another fob somewhere, that took one handler out of the rotation, because sometimes we would go to another fob for a few days at a time. So the people at the main place we were at, their rotations picked up too, because now you were gone for 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it was. So there were times you went out 6, 7 times in a week sometimes.
Wow.
Some weeks you didn't do anything. Some weeks you were in your chew and you didn't do anything, because we didn't work on base. We didn't search cars on base. The only thing that we did on base was training and exercise the dogs. That was it. We kept the dogs on the explosive odor, and we did, the aggression training and exercise the dogs, take them for walks. That was it. We didn't do anything on base. It was all outside work on that trip. So.
And did you find yourself getting into a rhythm when you started going out, in terms of, like you said, when you're checking the gate, you kind of get into a been there, done that, or was it a ramp up every time you went out?
Yeah, it was a ramp up every time, because you didn't, you're in, how do I say it? You're in their area now. This isn't like working a gate where you're kind of in your own zone. You have no idea what's out there, or what you might step on, or what might come flying into you. So every day was something new. There was no complacency. There wasn't any, okay, well, I've done this one. This is okay. This village is fine. Because you never knew. You never knew who was in that village. You never know who had left. You worried when you saw that some of the locals were gone, because maybe they knew something ahead of time. Like you had no idea what was going to happen when you went into those villages. Yeah, so there was no getting ready for that every day. It was definitely new every single time you drove out that gate. Every time you heard that test fire, when you got out the gate, you really had to how'd you say it, ramp yourself up to be ready for anything that was going to happen. Whether it was in the vehicle before you got to the village, or it was in the village or on the way home, you had no idea. But the whole time, you're just a mile a minute racing in your head, adrenaline through the roof. And then you get back and just crash once you're back on base. That was the weirdest sensation, was the crashing when you get back. That was the only thing that I was prepared for every time.
Was the crash. But then
yeah, that was the only thing.
Did the rocket attacks keep up through your whole deployment on the base? I mean, that's got to kind of keep you.
Oh my God.
Go to sleep.
Yeah. All the time. That place, they called it Mortaritaville. It was just all night mortars, except for during like Ramadan, or what was it called, the Arab Spring or whatever, when they just feel like shooting mortars at you. Yeah, the attacks, none of them got that close after that. While I was there anyway, that was definitely the closest one. That was an RPG that came in. The rest of them the perimeter was so far out that nothing came in close anyway.
Did
But
that
yeah, I mean,
constant?
you hear it all night, and then you hear the C ram or whatever it is that shoots the mortars down.
Oh
You hear
yeah.
that like all through the night.
Wow.
Yeah,
So do you need white noise when you sleep
to the
now?
point where you just sleep through it.
Yeah. I mean, is it weird then for you to have just silence?
No,
Or
no, not really. But I think part of that too is the house I grew up in Ohio. There were train tracks behind the yard, and so like I was a kid sleeping through trains, windows shaking, and so
Right.
I think that it was a different noise when I got there, but it didn't take me long to get used to sleeping through that. And now that I'm back here or back home, I slept okay, minus like the nightmares and the waking up and that kind of stuff. But as far as having noise in the background, I didn't really need that too much to sleep.
And how long was your deployment? Was that a year deployment, 6 months? How long were you over?
That one, counting the training, I left in February, very beginning of February. And I came home either October or November. So close to a year. It was November because I was only actually home January and December of that year.
Yeah. And
So 10 months, give or take a few days.
so all those months of going out and just being on edge and having to be aware, what was that like for you to come home then? I mean, that's not an easy thing to be on edge for that whole time and then to come home. What was that transition like for you?
You're right. It definitely wasn't easy. I came home and, I lived by myself. And so I came home and you get into your apartment and you look around and like nothing's happening and you feel like you can relax, but you don't. Because you are having those nightmares. You feel like you're constantly on the go. You're in that almost constant crash cycle where your adrenaline is so low now. Like you were used to these highs all the time, and now you're just so low. That's the way it was for me anyway. It was tough. I didn't talk to a lot of people because everybody had that mindset, and I did too. That you don't talk about it. You don't talk about it, the shit goes away. You have a couple of beers, it goes away. So I definitely came back to that. Didn't want to talk to anybody about it. Went to work like nothing ever happened. Even during my time off, when I first came home before I went back to work, I didn't really talk about it. I was talking to some friends the other day. When I talked to you guys the other day about this, I got off the phone, I was really shaky. And I think the biggest reason that happened was because I don't sit and talk about this stuff. Still to this day, I don't. I tell the funny stories. I might make a comment here and there, but that's it. I don't sit and talk like we're doing now. And so I started drinking a lot. Not like dangerous drinking. I wasn't driving around town. I wasn't doing anything like that. But if somebody wanted to go get beers, I was definitely going to get beers. And if it kept me out later than it should have, because I had to work a day shift the next morning, it kept me out later than I should have. I went to work hungover a lot, but that was the way I dealt with it. I think that's the way most everybody dealt with it, even as recent as then, and probably still now. A lot of people do. And when I came back to work, people noticed a change in me. I tried to hide it as much as I could, but it was hard because I couldn't see what they were seeing, what the changes were. I just thought that I was hiding it really well the whole time. Hindsight, I definitely was not. And so a couple of the guys in the kennels, that kennels that we had at the time, I still talk to those guys. Those guys are still very much family to me. Um, so they talked me into going to the mental health and the clinic, and it helped. Man, it really helped a lot. I was able to sleep again for the most part. I wasn't drinking like I was. I was just kind of cruising along before that. I went to work, but it wasn't that I cared about the work anymore. Like I cared about the dog, but I was definitely going through the motions. Um, the end result was going to work because at the time, um, I had built up my skills as a dog handler to where I was very good at what I did. Not to sound like a braggart, but I was very good at what I did at the time. And so I knew the end result was going to be okay. You might have some setbacks here and there, but they're living creatures. It's not like I'm working a robot. You can play that stuff off. And so I just didn't care. And then, like I said, those guys talking me into going to see somebody, man, that was life changing for me. Not life saving. I never thought about like hurting myself or hurting anybody else and all that. I mean, ultimately I was with the booze and the complacency and not caring about where I floated to in life. The only concern was, when can I take leave and take my son back home to Ohio? And that was it. That's all I cared about. But yeah, those guys, they helped me out a lot. And that was the only thing that made coming home a little easier. But that was probably, man, 5 or 6 months after being home, if not a little more, before I went, if I remember right. It was a long time where I spent a lot of money on alcohol, going out to restaurants because I didn't want to cook. I didn't want to be by myself, but I also didn't want to be in a restaurant full of people. Still to this day, I sit with my back to the door if I can. And if I don't, I need to have whoever is facing the door, I have to trust them 100% with my life. And luckily I have some people out here since I just moved out here not too long ago, that I've known for years that I do trust to look at that doorway for me. But for the most part, I'm still that person, not trusting people, looking at the doorway. But yeah, coming home after that, man, you see these things and you do these things and you never think growing up. I mean, even when you're in the military, you don't really think this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go fight these people. I'm going to go do this. You don't think that stuff. I mean, I have to assume even people coming in now or within the last 5 years don't think, well, I'm going to go to Iraq or Afghanistan and get in all these firefights. I don't understand if people do think that way, because it's few and far between that something happens when you deploy. You might go to a place where nothing happens ever. Like when I went to Saudi Arabia, nothing happened over there. You may get that for, a couple of deployments in a row. But yeah, coming home after that 2008 trip still gets to me a lot when I think about it and when I talk about it. Well, luckily I got, a lot of family and friends that help me out. They look out for me. I got a group of guys who know when something's kind of getting to me and they'll pull me off to the side. So I'm in a very fortunate situation for that.
That's good to hear.
And that's, we've talked to a lot of veterans who've said, reach out to your buddies. Like, you're still there for each other. And we've been to, especially during this lockdown and quarantine, reach out and check in.
Yep. Yeah.
Tony, did you notice your relationship with your dog changing while you were running missions?
Yeah. We were already a really solid dog team before I left, but even during the training when we were gone together, it was just that much better. Doing those things together, build up our trust each other 100%. Little things like I'll never forget it. We were in training and his temperature went through the roof because it's a Marine class. So
Right.
there's safety guidelines, but you're not picking up spent brass so nobody trips. That's on the ground because that's what it's like over there. So he got real hot. I carried him back to the kennels, took his temperature. He was well above what he should have been. And so I laid him down on some ice on the floor and put an IV in between the shoulder blades and squeezed the bag in and pressed the hump to cool him down. And after that, a dog, anytime he got hot, he'd walk over with his head down, waiting for me to put an IV between his shoulder blades. So, and it didn't matter as long as him and I were together. He didn't care what I did. I took him to the vet to draw blood. I held his leg out, shaved his leg, hit the vein. We didn't have to put him down for it. He let me put the IV in to get the blood. The dog just,
That's awesome.
our bond was so good that 100% trust between me and him, starting in that training that we went through before we deployed. It just got that. If we were at a 10, we got to a 20.
Wow. Did you notice a big change in him as well when you came back to the States? Did you notice him having a change as well?
Yeah, he was a very friendly dog before we left. And to a certain extent, when we got home, he still was. But little things like he didn't, when we got home, we got split up. I moved into a trainer position in the kennels and he went to another handler. But before that, when we got home, he went to the vet and I think I was in processing or something. So another handler took him to the vet and they put him down and took his, temperature, cleaned his teeth, did all this other stuff. And when they got back on base, he was coming to, and he was, like I said, he was a crazy friendly dog, but he was growling at every handler, these people that he had known for a long time. And he wouldn't let anybody come get him out of the car except me. I had to come out and pick him up out of the car and carry him into his kennel and sit him in there because he wouldn't let the other handlers touch him, and he was never like that. So yeah, big change in him. He didn't trust other people, and maybe it was only when he was under anesthetic and didn't really realize who they were or whatever. But that was the first time I thought, man, it changed him too. Changed him a lot. So
Yeah,
it changed like we do.
Yeah.
So was there a bonding issue going to the new trainer, or did he take to that?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, they did not work well together. If I was in the general vicinity, so I couldn't take that handler out with that dog to do training because he didn't want anything to do with that guy. If I was around, I was it. He would bypass explosives. He wouldn't bite people. He wouldn't work. Wouldn't even do basic obedience if I was around. So I had to stay away. It always sucks when you get split up because we were together 2.5 years. It was a long amount of time, and almost a year of that was in the desert. So, not counting all the Secret Service missions in the States with you're in a hotel room together for days and sharing your food with them. So we were together for a long time, and the bond was just amazing. And so, yeah, I had to stay away. He wouldn't work for that guy for a long time. They ended up being a pretty good dog team, though. He still, if he saw me, he came running, and he wouldn't even sit or down or anything for the other handler. But I made sure I stayed away when they were working, like actually working. I didn't do as much training with that team in particular because of that stuff. But yeah, he didn't really like that guy at first. He probably liked him, but he didn't love him like he did me. So
Is he still working?
no, oh man, you'll make me cry on this one. No,
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Your math.
he went on no, that's cool, man. Nah, his earn's up there. We watch TV together still. He died on his last deployment with that guy. Cancer got him. The handler woke up and the dog was staring at him and wouldn't respond. So we rushed him to the vet. And give me a second.
Take all the time you need.
He rushed him to the vet, and the vet couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, so they medevaced him to Germany. And they opened him up, did exploratory surgery, and he just never woke up.
That's a tough part.
Dogs, man. That's the hard part about dogs.
Yeah. Man, that was hard. And I was going to adopt him after he came home. He was going to come home with me after that because that was it for him. He was done working.
Yeah.
Almost made it to the house.
Close, man. That's close.
I had to help my mom.
But like I said, his earnings here. We watch TV. Hell, I still talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Heck yeah. I had to help my mom through her dog getting cancer a couple of years ago. And I kind of had to be the decision maker, and that sucked. So, yeah.
Yeah, I tell people I'm only here because of that dog. That is the only reason I'm sitting here.
Have you had any dogs, other dogs?
One time in particular, I know for a fact. What's that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was saying, one time in particular, I know for a fact that dog saved my life, and I'm only here because of him. The other times, yeah, he probably did, but I know for sure one time I'm only here because of him.
An alert or
yeah, so that hit pretty tough.
Yeah.
We had been chasing some guys for a while through a couple of villages, and we finally get to this house, and we split up to hit the gates on either side of the house around the yard. And we get inside, we find the guy that we're looking for. He had been hiding in there with the family, pretend like he was a family member. And we went to search the house and start to go up the stairs to the roof, and he just stops dead in his tracks, and he's staring on it. What the hell is that on the stairs? It was a grenade that guy had set on the stairs. I had I never would have seen it. Never would I have seen that thing. I would have kicked it, stepped right on it. But yeah, he stopped about halfway up. He found it.
You get a little extra dinner that night?
Yep.
What was your dog?
He got a lot of loving that night for sure.
What was your dog's name?
What's that?
What was his name?
Io.
Well,
Io was his name.
Well, here's to Io, a veteran of the United States military. So,
yep. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll switch. I'll be the one to switch gears. Your friends got you to go.
All right.
You said your friends got you to go talk. Were you kind of like, okay, I'll go do it just to kind of get them off your back, or were you open to the thought from the get-go, or what was that for veterans listening who are maybe a little reluctant to go talk? What was your experience like to let them know it's okay?
I kind of knew that I should. On that particular trip, I had a friend who was deployed at the same time to the same place. So after missions, I would go out to where she worked and just hang out for a little bit, take the dog out there, and hang out for a little bit. And it was nice just to come back and decompress with somebody that, she's family to me. So it was nice to come back and decompress with somebody that you trusted like that. I didn't ever tell her all the stuff that happened. Hell, she'll probably hear this now, but I didn't tell her all the stuff that happened on those trips. She probably knew something happened, but when I got home and I wasn't talking to people and everybody was telling me I should, I thought, you know what, they're probably right, because I felt better about the things that happened after I talked to somebody. I mean, granted, it was immediately after, and you're on that adrenaline low. And so you're just kind of winding down and just kind of crashing. But it felt better to talk to somebody. So I was reluctant to do it on my own just because the stigma that was attached to it. And now I know that stigma isn't as prevalent as I thought that it was. So I was reluctant to go do it because of that. And when everybody kept telling me, dude, just go, just go, just go, I thought, yeah, you're right. It did feel better to talk to somebody. So I'll go now. And man, I wish I had done it sooner. Still to this day, I tell my friends, if you got to go, go. Just who cares what other people think? You got to look out for yourself. I mean, and ultimately, you're looking out for everybody else that you're around. But yeah, so I was very reluctant. And then it wasn't just to shut them up. It was, I really just thought, yeah, okay, I'll go now. You guys are right. Between those guys, my ex-wife, her and I are still friends. We don't hate each other. None of that crazy divorce stuff. So I would talk to her and she's like, man, you should go see somebody. She told me that a few times. I don't know if she remembers it, but between that group of people who, I trusted 100%, I thought, okay, I'll go. And like I said, I'm so glad that I did. Best decision I made in a lot of years, for sure.
So what would you say to any veteran who's listening, who's at that point, who thinks there's a stigma or is worried about the stigma? What advice would you give them?
There isn't. That stigma is not there. If that stigma is there, then those people that think less of you were not your friends or your teammates in the first place. The people that I consider family, those people that were in the kennels, and my friends who were outside of the kennels that are family to me, those people genuinely cared. They didn't care that I wasn't allowed to arm up for a long time, a few months, whatever it was. I actually missed another deployment shortly after I came home because I was still seeing mental health and they wanted me off to go. I felt terrible at the time because, one of the other guys had to go. And he's a brother to me, but it would have been more dangerous for me to go in the mindset that I was in than to not go. It just would have been horrible for me to go to that. Not just for me, but for everybody around me when I was deployed. I wouldn't have been a good teammate to anybody that I was with over there. I wouldn't have been a good handler, I don't think. I probably wouldn't have taken as much care of the dog as I did, or might not have even trusted the dog as much as I did. I don't know. I had a lot of emotions and a lot of mental blockers in there that stigmas that would have happened if I didn't go. So that stigma shouldn't be there. If you're having trouble, go. No matter how minor you think it is, it's truly not minor. What was this, 12 years later, and I still deal with it sometimes. It's never going to go away, but you can make it better. You can take yourself out of situations. You learn how to do that when you go to mental health. You learn how to talk about things a lot better instead of trying to hide things. I mean, I know I said in the beginning that I don't talk about this stuff much, but in all honesty, it just doesn't come up much. Nobody says, "Hey, Tony, you remember that time they almost got blown up?" Like, nobody talks about that, So it just doesn't come up that much. I mean, I'm still a little, like I said, you guys are the first people I've really talked to about some of these stories. But and I was reluctant to do it today, but I thought, well, if it makes one person decide it's a good idea to go, then it's well worth it. Yeah, it's never going to go away, but you can take care of yourself a lot better if you go. It's very important that people go.
Perfectly said. And that's a lot, we've had parts of the movie where we're like, this is pretty intense. Do we put it in? And, our advisors have said, if it helps one person, it's worth it. If it helps one person, do it. So we did. Yeah. So
yeah, I've had other friends go, and they think the same thing. I've never known anybody to go and regret it. I mean, once I was cleared, I went right back to work. Nothing changed. I didn't carry a gun for a little bit. And in all honesty, I had a better schedule for a little while. It was Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30. So nothing changed. I just, like, my work was kind of put on hold for a little bit. If that's the worst thing that happens to you, it's way better than what the alternative could be if you don't
Yeah, no
know.
kidding.
Exactly. Dustin, I've asked a ton in a row. What you got?
I'm wondering how much of your current life, like day-to-day stuff, how much do you think about your military history? How much do you think about? I mean, are you still working with dogs right now, or what are you doing? What are you doing now?
No, no, I've been out of the canine world for, I left the kennels finally in 2012. So I've been out of the canine world for a while. I'm a security manager for a company now. I don't even know if I should be saying it, but this company you can order stuff from. They just had a big sale the last couple of days. And,
It's a pretty prime job.
yeah, they do a real prime job. I mean, I'm probably not allowed to say who the hell knows, whatever. I'm a security manager. So some of my friends who I was active duty with in Colorado are out here too. So our military time does come up a lot. We're hanging out because we tell funny stories and, not deployment stuff per se, but just anything from our time in Colorado Springs in general. So our time there does come up quite a bit because I've known the ones that are out here. It's been 22 years, 20 years, coming up on 15 years and 12 or 13 years. So I've known these people for a long, long time. So I do think about it still. As far as the stuff on the deployments, thinking about it, man, where I'm at in Eastern Oregon, it's, you get that haze in the sky, and it's like you're in Iraq again. I still get the smells where it just turns you right back into it again. Yeah, so I do still think about it. It doesn't affect me as much as it used to, because I'm able to keep my mind on other things, especially when I'm at work or with somebody else. So it doesn't affect me like it used to. But yeah, I still think about the fun stuff a lot more than I think about the shitty stuff.
Right.
I still have the nightmares sometimes. Wake up and your heart's pounding and you don't go back to sleep for another couple hours. You're crazy tired when you go to work. So that does still happen, but not near as much as it used to. But
yeah,
that's been kind of a common. I'm in a pretty fortunate situation where. What's that?
That's been kind of a common thread of guys we talk to is that it doesn't go away, but it's way less, and that.
Yeah. I'm pretty lucky to where now I think about the fun stuff more than I do the bad stuff. I'll make jokes with people throughout the day, and you meet all these people who are prior service, and you talk about, like we talked about earlier, the Air Force got these great benefits. And yeah, we did. Yeah, I'm proud of that. Why would I ever say, oh yeah, it was horrible, I should have been in the Army? No.
You chose right. Proud.
Yeah. What's the stereotype? The best food and the best deployments and the prettiest girls. All that's true. That is absolutely accurate. So why would I ever say, oh, I should have been in the Marines? Never will you hear me say something like that. But yeah, so I'm lucky because I think about the fun stuff when I'm talking to those people, as opposed to the stuff that keeps me up at night sometimes, or the stuff that wakes me up. I don't dwell on that stuff as much anymore.
When we talk about the fun times and we talk about black humor of military and even law enforcement, you ever get caught telling jokes or saying something and realizing that you're talking to civilians and they're kind of like, that's a bit messed up?
All the time. Especially being a dog handler, because I tell you, there's nothing more funny than a dog shit joke. Like actual dog shit, not just figuratively, literal dog shit in somebody's shoe or on the phone, something. There's nothing more funny than seeing somebody be like, oh my God, now I got shit all over me.
Oh,
So
you got me.
you tell that story to some people, and they're like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Nothing.
It happens a lot when I go back home to Ohio and see my family. They're like, what is wrong with you?
I was actually having that talk with my daughters this afternoon because they're talking about, I was like, why when I do something, it's weird. Like if your mom and I do something different, why am I the weird one? And they're like, well, and one of my daughters is like, maybe we're all weird. And I said, no, you guys are weird. I'm messed up. And I said, there's a difference. Do you know what it is?
Totally different.
Yeah. And they're like, no. And I was like, well, when you do something, people are like, God, that's weird. When I do something, people go, oh, God, that's messed up. That's a
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my youngest brother, the middle kid in the family, him all the time, he just looks at me. How the hell are you 43 years old? Because I make those jokes. He's like, how are you 43? Why are you not 7?
Well, there's physical age and there's maturity age, and they're different.
I've turned 30.
Yeah, and I'm here and here with those two.
Yeah, my wife says we've got to, when Dust and I are together, to used to be divide our age in half. As we're getting older, now it's by 3. So
yeah, I'm 43, and I don't think there's anything funnier than wiener and fart jokes. It's okay.
Yeah, keeps
okay
you
to
young.
laugh at stuff like
You're
when
not
you were a
wrong,
kid.
man.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely.
Then you add that dark military humor in there.
Yeah, I have
It's
to
just
police
escalated.
myself. My, I hang out with a bunch of cops and, a bunch of former military, friends from law enforcement, and my wife's an accountant. So I have to remember that when we're around her work colleagues. It's kind of like, hey, keep it down tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to watch it. They do not find things funny like we do. So
yeah, my ex-fiance was like that. We would go to places and she's like, please don't say stuff like that because they're not going to take it the way you think they're going to take it. Like, okay, fine. I mean, I would still say it because the hell with those people. They weren't my friends. They were her friends. What did I care? My friends would think it was hilarious.
Yeah, you're broadening their horizons.
Yeah, I was trying to open them up to new things, and they weren't receptive to it. So that's on them, not me.
Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, right?
that is the beauty of America, right there.
So,
hell yes, it is.
So it's kind of the point where we like to open the floor for anything that we haven't covered. We've talked about advice to fellow veterans. Anything maybe you think we haven't covered, whether it's advice to family members who have veterans or friends, like any advice you could give them, or open topic if there's anything else you wanted to say.
You got an NFL draft pick for me that I need to pay attention to for next year, or whatever you got, man?
Dude, I'm a Bengals fan, so I don't have any football advice at all.
He's a Lions
fan.
fan.
I'm a Lions fan, and I'm right there with you.
Oh, well, you feel it then, yeah. I don't think we're qualified to give football advice.
No, absolutely not.
I sent him a meme the other day. The Lions lost.
I think nice. My buddy out here, huge Lions fan, and his son is a Green Bay fan. And he tagged the two of us on Facebook, and it was the Bermuda Triangle of football, and it was a triangle between Detroit, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. And I thought, wow, he's not wrong. I mean, he's an asshole for doing it. Like, he should respect his elders.
He's not wrong, though. It's not wrong. It's painful. It's painful.
Yeah,
it's just to teach you, gives you character.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough. But you know what? The character is that you stuck with your team no matter how shitty they are.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm faithful. I mean, they're horrible, but I'm faithful.
The Mariners have given me 20 years. Sorry.
I see baseball. I'm fine, man. I'm a Braves fan. I'm the only one in my family not a Reds fan. My aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, everybody, siblings, they're all Reds fans. I'm the only Braves fan in the whole family.
You picked
So
right.
baseball, I'm fine. Yeah, this year I did.
So, but no, like we're saying, if there any open topic to friends, family, other vets, anything, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, to the other vets, go see somebody. Talk to your family and friends. They notice the change in you before you do. You think you're hiding it, but you're not. I was lucky I saw it sooner than other people do, other vets. Yeah, you're not hiding it as well as you think that you are. And the booze and the, I don't know if you're a smoker or whatever, or whoring around or whatever your vice is, you're not fixing anything by doing all that stuff. And for friends and family, encourage people, the vets in your family. It's I can't imagine how hard it is to approach for family and friends, because my family, they've asked some questions, and my answer in the very beginning was, don't ask. Like if you don't want to know don't ask. If you don't want to know the actual answer. My brothers know definitely more than my mom and dad and my sisters. But even they don't know much about it. They know that they need to support me. My family is very close, so my siblings all know they need to support me. But my brothers, they reach out about this stuff a lot. My one brother Nick, he was in the Air Guard, so he had some friends who had done some things too, and so he saw that. And then my baby sister, she was the same way. She was in the Air Guard in Ohio, and she knew some people who had been on actual deployments. I mean, like she went to Guam and Hawaii or something, so she didn't really, she didn't deploy, but some of those people did, and so they get it a little more than my other two siblings. But even my other two siblings who were not military get it, because they saw that change in me too. And so, if you're friends and family of a vet, you don't even have to necessarily ask questions. Just say, hey, if you need to talk, I'm around. We don't even have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about. It definitely helps, but please encourage the vet in your life to go see counseling if they need to. Because, man, if I had to guess, 70% of the vets are not going to without me pushing them, because that people still think that stigma is there, and it's not. It never should have been from Vietnam on. I'm lucky being a vet of the wars that I was in, because back in World War II, like there was no mental counseling for that stuff. I mean, you had the added benefit of coming back on a ship for however the hell long it took to get back from Europe to the States and talk these things out with your buddy. And then, Vietnam era, you got on a plane and you came home, and there was no talking to somebody. And now we have the added benefit of all this stuff is available to us, way more than it's ever been to any other veteran before our time. So many resources out there. So please take advantage of it. Family and friends encourage your veterans to take advantage of it. They're not going to think that they need it a majority of the time, but they probably do. So yeah, that's the advice. Try to push, like gently push. Don't force it. Just gently push somebody to take advantage of what's out there for them.
Well said. And our advice that we always give to people that we've learned from doing the podcast and doing the movie, a lot of times I think people have the desire to want to help fix the problems, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to find solutions. You just open your ears and listen. That is the biggest help you can do. Just open your ears and listen. So, Dustin.
That is a very
Tony, thank you so much for being here today.
There's no fixing it. There's easing it.
Yeah.
Hey, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. We talked, and man, I think it's great what you guys are doing. It's awesome. Sorry if I rambled on throughout the whole time. Once I get to talking, man, I start to ramble, especially when I got a couple beers in me and I think I'm like 3 deep. So
no, that's exactly what we're here for, is to hear.
Yeah, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing.
Thank you. It's a labor.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You guys are doing a really cool thing.
Thank you. And we love doing it. We love doing it. I mean, just doing the podcast every week, making the movie, like, there are a lot worse things in the world you could be doing for your job. I worked for the government. I know. So,
absolutely true. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
But thank you for being on. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. If you like what you heard, and as I always say, if you're still here right now, you must have. Tell your friends, tell your family, hit the like and subscribe button wherever you are listening to this podcast, and go out and hear people's stories.
You've been listening to the Know Their Story podcast. If you made it this far, we must be doing something right. Let us know by subscribing to our channel.
And think about sitting down with the veterans in your life, because saying thank you for your service should be the beginning of the conversation, not the end.